Phil, stay right there. Our next guest says Calhoun is doing the right thing by interfacing with officials in D.C. Let's bring in Robert Spingarn, lead analyst for the aerospace, defense, and space sector with Melius Research. Mr. Spingarn, welcome. Good to have you here.
Good to be here. Thanks.
Both Phil and I acknowledge that Mr. Calhoun has been upfront and owned on behalf of Boeing this matter of the door plugs. But is that enough? I mean, because it would seem to me that airlines who have done a lot of business with Boeing may be going, here we go again after the 737-8 MAX issues, that this may be a company that has sort of intrinsic safety issues.
Well, I think when we compare this to the situation that you were talking about before the MAX grounding, this is, in my mind, I think a different situation. This is post-COVID, and one of the key differences here is in the workforce. We have a different factory floor today than we had 5 years ago. Clearly, there have been lessons learned going through the MAX experience a few years ago, and CEO Calhoun has taken note of that. And I do think that he is trying to put Boeing's best foot forward here and acknowledge that they need the tightest possible oversight on the factory floor. And again, this is because we have a much newer workforce that is yet to get up the learning curve. It's just a different situation. Well, that's what I was going to ask
you. When you say that the workforce is different, are you saying they are better or worse or less skilled or less experienced or what?
The last part. They're less experienced. I think what we've all learned is that the aerospace supply chain is among the most fragile supply chains across the industrial sector. And we've seen this over the last 3 or 4 years through COVID and post-COVID. It's taking quite a while and longer than most people expected to repair that supply chain. A lot of talent left in 2020 and 2021. And so new folks are coming in. It takes a long time to train an aerospace mechanic, train aerospace engineers. And so, Boeing, I believe, is doing the best it can. There's always opportunity for changes and greater oversight. And this does seem like a management team that's willing to do what it has to do, to recognize problems quickly and attack them. And so, but I think some of this, and we see this not just at Boeing, but across its some peers and some suppliers, it's getting this workforce on board, trained and mature. And that's really nobody's fault. It just needs to be done with care and efficiency.
But Rob, we've spent so much time on the big headlines, and it is concerning for the flying public. We heard airline CEOs are furious. We get that, but what does it really like? What is the impact here? Does it mean that airlines in the future are going to go to a competitor to buy their planes? Does it mean that the flying public is going to say, well, is it a Boeing, that I'm not flying on a Boeing? I mean, in the long run, isn't this a blip?
It is, and it's understandable, Contessa, in that context where we had the MAX accidents, the tragic MAX accidents, and now we've had this. Those have been Boeing issues, but there have been issues elsewhere and issues with maintenance. And again, this is across the aerospace industry, and in general, I think in many cases it reflects what we've been talking about here, with the supply chain coming together and the labor force coming together. Over time, you have two primary suppliers of commercial airplanes, Boeing and Airbus, and their track record over the long haul is excellent. They make very good products. Yeah. They're generally very, very safe, and neither one can supply the entire airline demand that's out there globally. So they have to split the market at this point, and most people are having great success with Boeing aircraft. Obviously, this accident was very unwelcome, and they have to get on top of this quickly. But again, I think they are doing everything that they can do in order to make that happen.
There is going to be a lot of attention paid, of course, to the earnings call, as Phil pointed out, for next week.